everyone. Welcome to Female Founders. Thank you so much for coming. I'm just going to briefly, tell people about this event if you haven't been here before. Sam Roach-Gerber has been doing it for 9 years. This is the 9th season. And we've been doing this to highlight female founders in our state who have just done a phenomenal job. And we've done many different themes. Tonight is outdoor products, so we cannot wait to yap about this. And then a little bit about VCET, who we are. We're a nonprofit advising any Vermont entrepreneur in the state. Just last year alone, we advised 377 entrepreneurs. We also produce a podcast, and we have a newsletter just to let people know about what's going on in Vermont and the ecosystem. So before we kick it off, I just want to invite Hotel Vermont up to say a few words.
Hi, everybody. Does everybody have a glass? If you don't, can you raise your hand and we'll come bring one on over for you? We also have NA options if anyone would like one. But I am here because we'd just like to take a moment to recognize our good friend Sam. Sam has been moderating Female Founders since its inception 9 years ago, and tonight will be her final episode. So I have only been fortunate enough to work alongside Sam for 3 of those years since I started at the hotel a couple of years ago. But through that time, she's just been a source of light and kindness and humor, and we will miss her dearly. Here's a little something to say thank you, and hopefully you'll come visit us soon, come hang out, because we think you're really cool. And as she passes the torch, we're so excited to continue these conversations with Nicole as a moderator and VCET, because these conversations are more important now than ever. So, cheers to a space where we can connect and support women to thrive without barriers, and power in our local community, and to Sam. Cheers to you and your next chapter. We'll miss you so much. Cheers. Cheers. Yes, Sam. Cheers.
Okay, everyone cheers. Before we get emotional, I'm going to get this started. So it is off to Sam, and let's go.
I mean, she's going to kill it. Am I right? Yes. Thank you, Maddie and Hans and the whole team at Hotel Vermont. Thank you, John, who pays attention to every detail, like turning off the mic so we don't have annoying background noise. Nailed it. Thank you. So this is my 30th event, which is wild, and I'm going to try not to get emotional. I also have a lot of pregnancy hormones happening right now, so I can't promise anything. But let's just say you're going to be happy to have Nicole in January. So I wanted to end on one of my all-time favorite industries, outdoor products, with 3 great friends and founders in our community who I think everyone here probably knows or has heard of or has used their products many, many times. I was thinking about putting a children's coat on over. I got my Skida, but I figured that was too much. So maybe next time.
Maybe I should wear a hat or something here.
Yeah, no, it's a little warm up here, so it's best that we don't. We're starting with Claire. She is the founder of Hootie Hoo. We have Carina, the founder of Bivo, and then Corinne, the founder of Skida. And Corinne was actually one of my very first speakers in 2016, which is crazy. She said she'd come back, which is so kind. We were children at the time, I think. So here we are now. So I'm really excited for this conversation tonight. Thank you 3 for being here. I know it's potentially the most inconvenient time of year to commit to something. And they all said yes right away, so I was thrilled. So I want to have each of you just start by introducing yourselves, a little bit about your background and your company. Claire, we can start with you.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Sam, for having me here, having us here. I'm so thrilled to be here with 2 phenomenal female founders. So my name is Claire Zhu. I'm a she and her, and then I'm the CEO and the co-founder of Hootie Hoo. So we make really high quality kids gear to keep kids outside. It's very important for them to experience the nature, to stay away from the tablets. It's good for their mental health, physical health. So we have been in business for 3 years, and then I'm here, and thank you.
Hi, I'm Carina Hamel. I am a co-founder of we make performance metal water bottles, and our first ones are designed specifically for cyclists. I went to UVM. I was a ski racer, so I spent quite a bit of time in Vermont, and in between living in Vermont earlier and now, I lived in Portland, Oregon for 12 years, where I owned a footwear product development and design agency where I help brands anywhere from creative direction through to production. So I had always had a dream of making my own product.
Just project.
Yeah. And so this came out of that. I love coming up with ideas for other brands, and so when I came up with the idea of Bivo, we had the ability to just kind of jump on the opportunity and develop it. So we launched in late 2020, and we've been growing and having a lot of fun, and excited for more.
I'm Corinne. I'm the founder and owner of... No, that's not working. Right? No, I'm the founder and owner of Skida, and I founded the company 16 years ago on a whim of creating my own hats for myself and my teammates. Carina Hamel was actually my ski coach.
And I was one of the first stitchers. Which is funny. Yes.
Are you kidding me? I didn't know that. Surprise! No, seriously. I reached you for the tissues already? Yeah. So this is really meaningful to be here. My God. I'm not going to complete my sentences either. 8 years ago I sat up here with thank you. With Sam and talked about my journey with Skida, and that's another 8 years. So that is total 16, and here we are now. So I can talk about a whole new chapter.
I want you to do a replay everything that happened in the last 8 years, starting from the top, quarter by quarter. I'm just kidding.
So I live here in Burlington. We've been set up in Burlington since 2013, so it's been 11 years, and we have a team of 23 full-time employees at our space off Kilburn Street, and you can shop our store right there off Pine, and we're psyched to be here, part of the Burlington community.
Heck yeah. Thank you, three. I mean, come on. Are you serious with them? Each of you got into this a little bit, but I want to talk a little bit about why you started your companies. Really not an easy thing to do. You don't just really do it on a whim. Maybe sometimes you accidentally stumble into it by making something for your teammates, but I just want to talk a little bit more about the why. What was sort of the gap you saw? What kind of drove you those early days to make it happen? Whoever wants to jump in, go for it.
I can start. I was running my footwear development agency, and then I had our first daughter. So when she was transitioning from just being at home with me and going to daycare, I actually was having a hard time going back to work. It was actually a very odd thing for me because I've always loved to work. But when she was going to daycare, I was really wanting something that was a bit more meaningful for me to work towards if I was going to spend time away from her. And at that same time, she refused every single bottle, like every single bottle. And I really didn't want to feed her out of plastic. So we were testing all these different bottles for her. And then my husband and I were out skiing one day, and we were talking about how hard it was to find a good bottle solution for her. And we took a drink out of this old drink belt that was about 15 years old, which is a thing that Nordic skiers use, and it's impossible to clean, and it had black mold around the rim. And we're like, well, every time we exercise, we're drinking out of plastic too. So that was like a very quick light bulb moment, like, holy cow, how does this not exist? So we went home and researched the bike market and discovered that it wasn't something that existed yet. So that was a pretty massive, like, wow, we have to go after this. And within 2 weeks, we were designing our first bottle.
Damn. All right. New job.
Yeah.
All right. So I started this idea when COVID hit. So the big thing for me is like, as a mom of two, I was not sure how my kids can survive this, environment without any guidance. So I'm trying to find a way to teach my kids to be tougher and then to survive as them without me. So when I observed my son, really, it was a very cold winter, and my son just play outside and hurt his finger. I was like, oh my God, that might be the the last time he would go on a skateboard. It was a skateboard accident. So, but he went out again after 1 hour. He was like, it's okay, it hurt a little bit, but I'm fine. So I realized that it's very important to keep the kids out there, let them fall, let them make mistakes, and then realize that it's just part of the game. So I think so, but I have been working in the industry for many years. I haven't found any good gear for the kids as good as ours, but they are the one, rolling in the snow, making snow angels, not us. Maybe some of us still do that. We need to give them better gear so they can just enjoy, the outdoor. They can just survive without thinking about, oh, this is so cold. They will not have excuse to just, go inside. Right now, when my kids were Hootie Hoo, when my daughter said, oh, it's so cold here, I'm cold, I'm wet. I said, you're not cold, you're not wet. You're wearing Hootie Hoo, so you can stay. Sorry, I'm a little bit tiger mom, but really, for 15 minutes, I was like, you definitely can play outside for another half an hour. But so usually the half an hour tend to like 2 hours. They just need that little potion. They will realize that how fun it is just be outside. So I started a company 3 years ago. I just there's a gap in the market. I cannot find any gear for kids to do that. I also want to be a mom, like really, advocate for this important thing to keep kids outside.
That's great. I like to say too, as adults, we have Gore-Tex, so no excuses, rain or shine. I had this aha moment the other day where I actually better understood the inception of Skida.
Oh, nice. Good timing.
Yeah. It took 15 years for that memory to really marinate and bubble back to the surface. But I grew up sewing, and my mom taught me to sew at a young age, and that was kind of our creative outlet. And there was one year we were making fleece leggings, and we did fleece hats, and I remember making myself this little fleece hat that had this funny little pom-pom. And when I started cross-country skiing, I was kind of attached to this hat, so I wear this hat in a Nordic race. And if you've cross-country skied, you know that you work up a sweat. And mid-race, I'm like, oh, I'm getting really hot. And so I took my hat off and left it at the side of the trail. And when I went back to go get it, at the end of the race, it was gone. And I was devastated, genuinely sad. But the way that I internalized it was, well, my next hat's not going to be as hot. So,
there you go.
So I found this 4-way stretch fabric. I had to kind of tap into my 16-year-old brain to get at this. But I found some 4-way stretch fabric at a local craft store. Found bright, I think it was offshoot from swimwear or something. So it was really bright tropical florals. And made that first batch of hats, and I think Carina had a coral polka dot print that was your signature.
Yeah.
That first year, and we all wore them to this race, and it was I think there was something about the energy too, where we were all kind of dressed up and taking photos and having a ball, and we really kind of made a statement in that. And we were, I think afterwards, some of the gals from Stratton Mountain School came up to me and asked, can you make some for us? So I made some more, and that was the snowball.
My God, 16 years ago.
Yeah.
Just going to remind you that 6 or 7 more times.
9 for you.
Yeah. So one thing I want to talk about, obviously you've been iterating for years as you go, but it's kind of easy to do when you're sewing, right? You can test different different fabrics. You can, make different sizes, all that kind of things. Not quite as easy when you're making outerwear and bottles. So I want to talk about prototyping because I think that especially for founders, first-time founders, that's really hard to do. You can make a very crude prototype, but there gets to be this next step. So I want to talk to you two a little bit about how that experience went for you and any advice you might have for people that are launching a product.
So I, as I mentioned, I've been in the industry for many years. I worked at Burton Snowboard as senior product manager for many years. So I know the industry pretty well. I know products pretty well. So it was very nature very natural for me, just doing prototypes. I also have a co-founder based in China, so she's overseeing all of our development and production. But talking about the process, I think you would think you want to have a really perfect idea to start to prototype. But actually, I learned that you actually want to start from you want to make mistake quickly and test it. So prototype is like, prototype is like, you have idea that's your understanding of the product, but you want to test it with the real customers. So our first prototype is like, we thought the kids will need this. We have some initial ideas, but we just turned it out very quickly. We did 2 rounds of prototyping, and then we just launched it. I think we spent lots of money making those first batch of production. But we want to just see how the consumer receive it. So within 9 months, we actually launched our first batch of production. Just sent to the reps to see if anyone is interested in our product, and also start selling online. So we sold a little bit, but Bivo, if you guys are familiar with that, it's an online outdoor retailer, Bivo. So they saw our products from a trade show, and they're very interested, and they just say, okay, we're gonna order some right there. So I feel like prototype, you would think you want to have a very good idea, but you have to just throw it out and test it. And after that, we made so many changes based on the feedback from our retailers, from our customers. But that's how you can just make it better.
Mine is a little different because it's a hard product, so it requires molds. So the bottle itself, actually, this whole thing, the molds cost about $25,000. So we really didn't want to mess that one up. And this was, we were investing our own money in it. And we had a lot of different ideas for how, the biggest challenge for us was how do you get water out of a hard object that you can't squeeze? So we had to create a venting system, and that's what our bottles, we have a patented gravity flow system that make our bottles so unique. And that system, we could do a lot of testing where we had a lot of hot glue guns, we had a lot of plastic bike bottles that we would drill and test out different options. And then we did a lot of 3D printing too. And so there's definitely there were some online 3D printing studios that we use. You can use a lot of different material choices there. And one of the other big things for us was the shape. So since it's a rigid structure instead of normal plastic bike bottle, it doesn't squeeze into the bike cage the way that a plastic bottle would. So we had to create a variety of 3D prints to make sure that the shape itself would hold within the bike cage. For us, this was a 18-month product development process, which was much longer than I anticipated because I like to move quickly, but it just required a lot of back and forth of testing 3D prints and understanding how fluid dynamics work and working with third-party engineers.
Damn. That sounds so hard.
So committing.
It was, yes. Yeah.
Maybe along those lines, Corinne, if you can talk about sourcing materials, because I know that's kind of the biggest thing for you guys when you're, prototyping really is what materials to use. And I know that process has changed over the last 16 years. So tell me a little bit about sourcing materials.
When we started, so I graduated from the May store, which was the local craft store in Lyndonville, Vermont, and moved on to eBay and this website called spandexworld.com.
They're actually sponsoring tonight's event.
If I get a tattoo or something. Anyways, they sold dead stock fabric, so that's leftover remnants or bolts of fabric from production runs and kind of culling in all this material from different factories and different kind of points in their production cycles. So I was able to kind of shop around to these different materials, and when I was buying fabric on eBay, it was always such a trip because I'd be shopping I was looking for 4-way stretch, polylicer blend, and I'd get these little thumbnail images of what the print would be. And oftentimes they would arrive and the scale would be enormous, and you'd have one flower massive on your head, but you never really knew until it was going to show up.
Make it work.
Yeah. And then, we kept doing that where I'd buy yardage, make a batch of hats, and we'd have, an assortment at any given time based on the material that we have. And then when we would sell through that, we would then go out and, fulfill that inventory with different raw materials. And over time, that kind of cultivated this like limited edition feel, which I think is what's so signature to Skida. And over the years, we've now been kind of designing and licensing our own unique artwork and then getting that printed on our base fabric. So now our fabrics are way more consistent, and the material, the design, everything is kind of more curated and designed originally, where before we were shopping that dead stock fabric. But the dead stock model, I think, for materials and sewing is such a cool way to prototype and try things, where you can make these kind of small batches. And we were doing that with our high pile fleece originally, where we were buying kind of offcuts from Polar Tech production from a distributor in New Hampshire. And it was great because we could kind of shop from her colors, and the minimums were super low. So we could kind of test and try these new things. And that was kind of a really cool way to start trying new things with a low commitment rate. But then eventually, as those products become more popular and we want to integrate them into our line more kind of permanently, it takes a meaningful transition to go from that kind of small yardage to a whole year out, where you're kind of forecasting a color, committing to thousands of yards, putting in production, and then kind of following the whole distribution model. Yeah. But it's fun to think about the start and how we kind of play around with new ideas using that kind of upcycling style.
Yeah, and it gave you, you were able to get a customer base before having to invest in custom fabrics and stuff, which is huge.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of vetting styles, and it's, do people like it? Do they not? And then why? And the tweaking, the constantly updating.
Yeah.
It's essential.
Totally. Actually, I was talking to a friend the other day about we want a Skida like trading network, because it's like we just have too many prints at this
That's
point.
a really cool idea. I hadn't thought about trading.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes I'll like be on Poshmark and see what people are
You're
selling.
Like, hey, why are you selling that?
Yeah. Well, it's like a time machine.
Yeah, I might start like a Skida rental business on the side. You're not going to sue me, right? So what was I going to talk? There was one, oh man, you said something that made me think, and now I don't remember. Okay. So I want to talk about selling your products. Wholesale, retail, the balance of it, where to start. I know that's like a big stressor for a lot of folks, and usually they do it wrong when they start, or it's like the wrong balance, or it's not the balance they thought it was. So I'd just love each of you to talk about what that road has looked like for you and what you've like learned from that process. Claire, let's start with you. I miss you.
So that's a very good question. So actually,
Thank you.
It's just I've been thinking about that question for a while recently, because I had a conversation with a mentor I respect a lot. Just listen to people, like, some people focus on wholesale, 80% wholesale, 20% retail. It's like, they have like a focus on one channel instead of the other. But I have always been thinking, Hootie Hoo, I want to do 50-50, because I feel like, consumer is very important. I want to hear what consumers think about our products directly, but I also want to have wholesale so they can help us to reach out to more consumers. What's the question again?
Well, I think you're killing it, first of all.
Okay.
But just like, what does the breakdown look like for you? What was kind of the goal, and then where are you at?
Sorry. Yes.
That's why I'm here. I wouldn't have a job if you didn't distract.
So right now we are mainly in wholesale. I would say our wholesale is 70%. Our retail is 30%. We're trying to build our retail now. Because I love, connecting with consumers. Corinne and I just came back from a trade show, consumer show this weekend, talking to the customer to find out what they like, what they don't like, what they are excited about our products is extremely exciting. But I want to grow that so we can hear directly from the consumer. We can also just check the point, are we doing the right thing? Are we providing the right products for them? But it's art and science, like how to grow that. I think for each industry, for each business, it should be, you should just, think about it, sit down and think about the whole picture and where you want to be. it's a tricky question, I would say.
So when we launched, it was December 2020, so COVID was in full swing. And we had originally thought that we would launch in both wholesale and on direct-to-consumer, but we chose to just do direct-to-consumer because bike shops were mostly closed. So we definitely targeted the bike shop first, or direct-to-consumer, and then once we started doing wholesale, we started targeting the bike shops. But when, for us, it's a add-on product to purchasing a bike or going to get your bike fixed up. So we've always seen this huge importance of being in store. You can kind of compare it to like a car dealership or something. You want to go back and get your car fixed in a shop instead of doing it yourself. So bikes are very similar. So we've always seen an importance there. We're about 60%, including Amazon, we're about 60% direct to consumer and 40% wholesale. That's going to keep changing to be a little bit stronger on the wholesale side. We see it as a way to scale a little bit easier, especially internationally. And for us, I mean, there was this huge wave of direct-to-consumer focus, and I think that that's a great way. For us, it's a great way to build our brand and really interact with our consumer. That being said, it's very expensive to find customers direct-to-consumer, and so I think that pendulum is swinging backwards a little bit, and people are focusing more on wholesale again.
You got thoughts?
I got thoughts. I think back to when we've always been present both direct to consumer and in retail since year one. And I remember when I was at Burke in high school, my math teacher drove me down to the bike shop to show my hats at our first retailer, East Burke Sports. I didn't really know what wholesale was. So I was like, I don't know, I'll sell it to you for 20 and you can sell it for 30. And they were like, that's not how this works. And I learned about Keystone margins or Keystone markup, which is 50%.
I'm starting to understand why I was the math teacher. It's making more sense now. Yeah.
So that kind of helped introduce me to how wholesale formally worked. But like Carina said, we've always had that kind of blend, but it's really interesting year to year how much it's kind of flip-flopped, and we've managed to kind of keep them within range of each other, and sometimes some years weigh heavily one direction or the other. But then we also have other sales channels, like we do custom logo wear, and where's Jill? Shout out, Jill. We also do retail in store at our shop in Burlington. We just opened a seasonal pop-up shop in Boulder, so that's kind of direct to consumer in a different way than online. And then we attend some events and have some presence there. But I really think about, all those channels of distribution. But the one thing that's so challenging with wholesale is that it's on a completely different calendar. So retailers are purchasing a year in advance from their ship dates. And so you have to have the line plan done 2 years ahead to have it like photographed and kind of captured and like confirmed. And then we take it to trade shows and we sell it into the retailers. And then a year later, it ships. And D2C is so much more straightforward. It's like you have the product, you list it, you might run some ads for it, send out an email, it gets purchased, and then that sale is done and the product's distributed. And so the time frame is so much more condensed for that, which just lend themselves to different kind of cadences and planning models.
Yeah.
It's kind of complicated.
You got to roll with the punches.
Yeah.
Love that. One thing I wanted to ask you all about is content marketing. Like, you've all talked about like getting to know your customer and like what they want and what they like and don't like. And Carina, I know you guys started like really early having a blog and like speaking to your customers. And I just got a newsletter from Claire the other day, which was awesome. I read it, the whole thing. No big deal.
Thank you.
And so I want to just talk a little bit about how you approach that, why it's important to you, and like, what you think startups should be thinking about when it comes to content marketing.
Yeah, we have zero background in marketing. Like, that was actually, I would say, our biggest hole in the whole business plan of everything. And we started out doing pretty much like what people would tell you to do, like make it look beautiful, have like buy here and click the button and it takes you to the product page. And we started working with this advisor that through Launch VT, which we were part of in 2022, I believe. And he really pushed us to just start talking like who we are and tell stories and make people aware that we're cyclists ourselves and we understand the industry. And we made a pretty big shift from making it much more like push marketing versus pull into the brand. And so we've done, like, it sounds kind of antiquated, but we have put a lot of effort into our blog platform. And then in March of this year, we launched the second portion of that called Quenched, which has guests come on and write stories for us. And since we launched Quenched and really leaned into what we call Thursday, which is our Thursday newsletter, we've had a 650% increase in site visits and blog readership over that course of a year. Wow. And so that alone, it's really interesting to watch. Our conversion rate is down, but because so many people are coming to our site, but the readership is really up, and we get so many comments from customers. And we just got an email recently from some guy that met my husband at an event in New York City, and he's like, I met Robbie, I didn't buy a bottle. I went home, I did some research, I bought a bottle 2 days later, and I'm so proud to be part of the Bivo family. Aww. And to me, that was like the coolest interaction, because it's like, that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to just pull these people into our brand, and that has been working really well for us.
Damn, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's not good, but it's kind of like good for me to hear that we are not only brand, not knowing anything about marketing. So marketing has been a big hole for us too. So that if I could, find another partner working on marketing, that would be great. So
be careful. There's like 7 consultants in the audience that are like,
yeah. So we are, Carina and I actually share one same advisor, and then he gave us the same advice as well. So that's why I started working on our blog post too. And it's just like, it's really like, I have so many things I want to share with the other moms. And then I was like, well, there are so many moms trying to, on Instagram and out there, but who's gonna come to listen to me? I was like, but I feel like it doesn't mean like there's so many other brands, so many other moms try to advocate for outdoors. Like, you cannot be one of them. Like, you have your own voice, you have your own ideas. So that's why I started working on that. Thank you for reading my blog post. Good to know someone is reading that. I think it's like content marketing is very important to keep your keep your audience, your followers, to be loyal to your brand, to understand who you are, to understand what you are fighting for. Just keep them around you. It's way more meaningful than just paid ads. Paid ads, we're trying to do paid ads right now. Just try to reach out to more audience. More customers, more people. But in the end, I feel like we want to build this community, who share our vision, who wants to support their kids, who want to also just enjoy the outdoors.
Yeah, to add, I forgot one thing about our blogs too, is it really helps with our SEO. So if you Google best mountain biking in Vermont, Bivo actually pops up as first, which is shocking to me, because I never anticipated that to happen. But so we're not paying for that ad, we're just up front, which is really a huge benefit. So that's another piece where that really helps, actually.
That's so cool. I feel like, from my perspective, the content landscape has changed so much in the last 15 plus years. Mm-hmm. And when I started, I remember I made a Facebook page. I had a Facebook page, but then I just made another Facebook page for Skida, and then Instagram was kind of getting some traction in college, and so I made another Instagram page for Skida, and just kind of always thought about it as its own personality and brand. And now the landscape is immense and insatiable and constantly churning, and it's really impossible to feel like you keep up with it. But I think it's been a pretty incredible ride to just see all the different ways that content can work for you. And sometimes I find myself we create a lot, and that's something I am passionate about, of the photography and storytelling and capturing kind of our product in different environments and with different people and different landscapes, and that makes me feel like we're kind of innovating in a way. So finding more platforms, or knowing what platforms to share those certain assets on and tell those stories, is kind of a constant changing landscape. It's just really quite dynamic, and I think we always like have a handle on it, and then as soon as you feel like you're dialed, something changes, or the email convention changes, or this new platform or channel that you need to be on pops up, and I think just being nimble with it through it all has been the best approach for us.
Yeah, love that. And your photography is amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like looking at it and I'm like, oh, this is Skida. It's so like engaging that doesn't feel like an ad for a product.
Nice.
So
Thank you.
good feedback.
Great.
Yeah. I want to talk about something that I know very little about, but I know is a bit of a sore spot potentially. Trade shows. Do you have to do them? How do you pick? Is it worth spending money on a booth? Blah blah blah.
Can we just start with Corinne this time?
Claire's like, not again.
I'll start. I put in quite a few years doing trade shows, and I actually quite like it in some sick way. There's like this sense of community that it fosters. Claire and I were. No way you can just lobby that over to me. Claire and I were just at a show in Boston this weekend, and it was a consumer-facing show, which is really unique because most of the trade shows are oriented towards retailers and buyers, or writers and bloggers and media people. But this show is regional to Boston, and it's anyone from the general public can come in and kind of shop from these brands or learn more. And it was really fun because all these reps from the different ski companies that I used to kind of be on more of a routine circuit with in the New England regional trade show circuit were all there, and it was just like, there's so much camaraderie in that. Everyone's getting fired up for winter. It's November. So it made me really appreciate the community that's formed through that whole industry. But I think there's a lot of, the world of trade shows is really built to support the retailer model that I talked about with that kind of advanced planning piece. And the structure of it is becoming a bit antiquated. And the way that I engaged with it was kind of on a regional basis starting 11 years ago. And then I kind of weaseled my way into the SIA show, which is the Snow Sports Industry Association. And that's like a national and international trade show for our industry. So getting onto that floor was a really big deal, and then I knew nothing at this point. I would never
I was just
do it
picturing
again
you
this way.
sweeping the floor, but wearing a Skida hat, looking around.
I worked with the Barge Canal Market on Pine Street to build a booth out of barnwood,
Yes.
and then we freight palleted it on a 4x8 pallet, 2 of them. It was so much money in drayage fees, which I learned later. Freight it out. They bring it into the trade show convention center. It's a whole ordeal. You have to hire union laborers. But a lot of the brands would spend 6 figures at least on this whole operation, and it lasts 4 days. You're there for a couple days to set up. You have 4 days to kind of make all your relationships, and in the time before a lot of kind of B2B online automation, people were writing orders, and so the point of the show was to really get in front of people and show them the line and then take the order in person. So it makes sense for people to all be there in one place, but now it's not really like that anymore, and so that model starts to kind of phase out, and we're finding different ways to get in front of people and to meet our retailers, and there's almost more of an emphasis on the regional show, and that's been really fun to reconnect with, and now we have a sales rep force in some of our key regions that go to the trade shows. So I went to Boston kind of nostalgically. I also wanted
do I still got it?
I don't. I'm exhausted. It was 2 days. Yeah.
I'm heading to Texas tomorrow to go to the running event, which is a trade show. It was for running, and now it's become more of an outdoor show. We honestly haven't done a ton of trade shows. We're starting to do more of them, more of the local ones that Corinne is talking about. What is interesting in the bike industry specifically is that trade shows are actually more like expos and races. And so we have done a lot of work in going to a series of races across the country. 2 years ago, my husband and I and the 2 kids jumped in a car and did a road trip through Colorado and Montana, and Iowa, all across mainly the West. And we hit up a bunch of trade or expos at these events. That was a great way for us to talk to our consumer, and we learned so much. So I would say that honestly, if I were to do anything over again, I think that would be one of the main things, is really get out and just talk to consumers across the country, because Vermont is super small. Things are very different here than other places, and it really gets you out in front of other people that would be wanting to interact with your brand. So that for us has been huge. Trade shows, yeah, I mean, they are kind of fun. Like I'm excited to go tomorrow because I'm going to see a lot of old colleagues and interact with them, people who I haven't seen in 5 to 7 years or so. And so that I'll very much look forward to. Another thing that for Vermonters is, I think other states have this too, but the STEP grant is something that we've leaned on a little bit to go to trade shows. So if you are going to a trade show, not so much the expos at these bike races, but something where you're promoting business outside the state and outside the country, the STEP grant will help you get there by covering 75% of the cost. So that's something that I feel like everybody who is looking to start a business should know about, because that's been hugely helpful for us at Bivo.
Hot tip.
Yeah. So we have been using the STEP grant as well. Thanks to Carina to introduce that. So we are pretty new. We are such a small brand, a new brand. So we just started going to trade shows. I was naively thought I could find lots of reps, in the industry who can rep me. So I don't need to do those things. But it turned out to be, it's just, nobody can speak the story as good as you are. So I feel like, I was not a salesperson. I was so scared to just starting selling things. But when I start talking to people are very nice. They understand why you started. It has been very well received. So we're going to a trade show next month, which is a regional show. As Corinne said, the national show has been very, very different from many years ago. So right now, nobody go to SIA, and SIA will consolidate to one show a year. There used to be 2 big parties every year, and then it's seriously a big party. So right now, we all, for each regions, there are different regional shows for outdoor business. So the one we're going to is in Worcester, Massachusetts. So I feel like, trade show it's going to be good because you can meet so many retailers in one place. But you have to do lots of homework beforehand. So you have to reach out to them, send email, try to set up appointments. Otherwise, you would just sit in your booth, and everybody is so busy walking by your booth, and they wouldn't have time to talk to you. So there's a lot of preparation for the trade shows. If you ever want to try that, that's totally something you should try. But you just have to tap in and see how you can prepare better. For consumer shows, I love consumer shows. I feel like, for the past 3 days, I was in Boston for Snowbound. It was my arm is very sore because we were making those pins, for little kids, so they could just, color those their design, or they color some pre-designed pins. So we make pins. I was just making maybe hundreds of pins over there. But it was really fun, I could talk to the parents, feel like, what's the pinpoint, what has been good, what has been not very good with their kids. It's just very nice to tap into, the customers.
Can I just say, Claire's toddler snowsuit friggin' zips off around the waist, so you don't have to completely undress your kid when they have to pee. Parents, am I right?
Yeah, it came from. Thank you. It came from experience. If you're a mom or a dad, you understand how painful to watch your kids go to the bathroom and just take off their jacket and throw on the wet public bathroom floor. I was like, But, you can't stop them beforehand sometimes.
Well, my son, his way of saying that he has to go to the bathroom is, pee coming. I'm like, oh my God, like literally nothing gets my anxiety like pumping more than pee coming. I'm like, how much time do I have? Is it happening now? I don't know. So thank you.
Right, but,
Yeah.
but did you ever have experience like, you asked him so many times, do you need to pee? He said, no. Okay, let's dress up. Have the helmet, everything dress up. I need to pee. I said, seriously,
Every time.
I just asked
Every
you to-
time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing. So one thing I want to talk about that I think will be applicable for folks that don't have physical products either, just business owners in general, is competition. How do you view it? How do you keep track of it? What's sort of your strategy behind it? Because I know some founders are like, not worried about them, doing my thing, and others have like, spreadsheets. So I'm just curious where each of you kind of fall in that. You want to start, Corinne?
I'll go first.
Give Claire a break. Let her have a sip of water.
Yeah. I think, the competition thing I've always been more of the latter in terms of, the former in terms of just kind of being in our lane and knowing that what we're doing is kind of our thing and it's unique, and there's so much to learn from our own mistakes. We have so much to learn from our own mistakes that I kind of had blinders on for a long time. But it's really, we glean so much from what competitors or other brands that are offering a similar product line in our space are doing. So there's definitely a lot of learnings to be had. But I think as Yvonne Chouinard said, if you're responding to your competition, like, you're too late. And if you're responding to your customer, what your customer is asking for, you're too late. So I really appreciate that, because I think like innovation and really kind of the element of surprise and staying ahead of it and that excitement, like, you really kind of have to do what no one else is doing to be ahead of the curve that way. But we look at it right now too in terms of like what kind of product offering is comprehensive. Like, there's some headwear brands out there that offer so many different styles, and you could say that we have way too many prints to choose from, but in terms of like different weights and different functions and why you might buy this hat versus that hat, like, they all kind of have their own intent and purpose, and there's a lot to learn from what other brands are doing in terms of how they kind of segment their customer and their product offering that way. So we've been tapping into that, but I definitely personally don't love to make decisions based on the matrix.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah, I'm in that camp too. I grew up cross-country ski racing, and my dad was my coach, and I remember him always, like, he's always told me, don't focus on others, just focus on yourself. And like, if you went to a ski race and you beat somebody that normally they beat you, maybe they just had a bad day. Or if somebody beats you and you raced really hard, like, you still did a good job. And so I like to take that into business as well. I also think it's important to look at what your competitors are doing and pay attention and understand what they're going after. We actually, when we launched our bottle, we literally were the only ones in the US with a stainless steel cycling bottle. And Camelback came out with a bottle earlier this year that's very similar to ours. And it, like, honestly, it kind of freaked us out. Like, we were like, okay, this is not great that somebody is coming into our space and they have very similar technology. But to what Corinne said, if you follow what your competition is doing, I think they rush to market, and there's some things about their bottle that's definitely not as good as ours. And we're outselling them often. We have data that we can look into, and sometimes we're 3 to 1, we're outselling them. And so in many ways, they entered the market and they actually helped us get into some retail stores. Like, we got into REI this year, and part of that was because REI took Camelback and put them on the wall, and they wanted a competitor in the space. And so I think that was like a very valuable lesson for me, because it was like, it went from this kind of nervous state to, wait, this is actually maybe really good for Bivo. So, but yeah, we have to just keep looking forward and know that, we can focus on our technology and our brand, and that's what matters the most, and just kind of have these like outside peripheries looking at competition.
Yeah, I totally agree with them. I feel like the competition is very good for all the industry, especially. Competition means like everybody will make better products. So that's good for consumers. I welcome competition, but I don't focus on what they're doing, or they are doing this, like they are lowering their price to a lower price point. Should I do that too? I feel like once you have you definitely want to keep tapping on what's marketing. Oh, what the market is doing, but you just cannot focus on that. Focus on your products and be the best, and then people will look at you and try to compete with you. So in the end, I feel like, again, I just feel like competition is good for the consumer. Everything good for consumer is the right thing, I think.
I agree. I think sometimes like having zero competition can be like a red flag. Like if there wasn't a fast follower, right? It's like there's the sign that maybe the market's not there, or it's not big enough, or whatever. So I totally agree with that. I want to shift gears and just like cherry pick some questions for each of you that are a little bit more individualized. One other thing I want to talk about, Carina, with you is IP. Like you talked about Camelback coming up with something very similar. Is your product patented? How have you approached that? What would your advice be to folks that are just starting out with a product?
Yeah, that's a good question. We do have a patent on our technology. It's like, honestly, TBD if it's worth it. So our patent is likely, or it is infringed upon. But there's not really much we can do about it at this point because we are very little and the Camelback is very big. And so if we went to court with them, for example, it would just cost so much for us to go after it that we're going to just let it kind of happen at this point. There are damages that would accrue. So to an investor or to someone who we potentially sell to in the future, it adds value to our brand for sure. If I were to go back and do it again, I would 100% still patent our product. It definitely just, it adds that value to our brand. It is very expensive, and so I definitely would make sure we got connected with this patent attorney who is a huge cyclist himself and a massive fan of one of my neighbor friends who was a pro cyclocross racer, and that's actually how we got connected. So to have someone like that who like genuinely is just so supportive of the brand and our mission, that's really nice to have somebody who is on our side that way. So I would say if you're looking at attorneys, just make sure you really trust them and that they believe in what you're doing so that they can really give you the best advice through the whole process.
Really good advice. And I think too, it's, sometimes it's too soon, right? So like, I think that's the thing is like, you have to think like, even if you do have it patented, like that means you're putting your design out there. Like now it's public information. And then if you don't want to pay the price to sue someone, then it's like, it's a double-edged sword. So I always say like, think about it. And hopefully if you have a good patent attorney, they'll give you the right advice.
Yep.
So Corinne, one thing I want to talk to you about is partnerships. You have done so many rad partnerships over the years. And I think it's one of the ways, for me at least, that your brand has stayed super fresh. It's been around for a long time, but I'm always excited to see what you come out with next. Can you talk about how you've approached that over the year and why it's been important to you?
Yeah, it's a great, fun thing to talk about. I would say, for me, as like a creative, I really love the design exercise that is kind of an essential part of the partnership process, which is how do we create some sort of design aesthetic pattern that represents both Skida's message and branding and aesthetic and sensibilities with this partner brand or organization, athlete, nonprofit. Like, how do we kind of create some sort of design that embellishes and amplifies both of these things put together? So I really love that process, and that comes after we usually get things going. And the other piece that I love about the collaborations is that they all require this kind of human point of communication. Like, it takes one person to say, whether it's from a different company or brand or organization or from someone from internally at our company, to say, hey, it would be great to collaborate with this brand. Like, I can see the synergy. And then that point of outreach to get someone from that group involved and like aligned on that and like get them to see the vision is kind of an understated process that I think really is essential to every collaboration. And so that part, I think, just makes the whole process and evolution of developing the collaboration, because every collaboration is different. Each one is really unique, and it's really dependent on the individuals that are on the teams that like make it happen. And so to me, it kind of makes us, I feel like as a small business, it makes us show our strengths and being able to be nimble and have these kind of personal connections and relationships with other groups to bring these things to life. So those are my two kind of favorite parts about it, the design process and then just the human element of that relationship forming.
Is there a partnership that comes to mind that was like particularly exciting or beneficial?
Oh, they've all been. I mean, I think a lot about our athlete program and how that's been a really like beautiful and organic evolution, where we started out supporting a cross-country skier, Liz Steven, who Carina will remember, really early on in our business journey. And she was a ski racer at Burke Mountain. She was a few years ahead of me, and she made the step after high school to race full-time with the U.S. ski team in cross-country skiing. And so she kind of dove headfirst into the World Cup. She was super talented, and realized that she needed a lot of funding to be able to train year-round and travel to all these training camps and compete on the circuit. So we developed a print with her that was Liz's print, and we called it the Friends of Liz print. And so you could buy the hat and that print, and the proceeds would go to support Liz. And so we were able to kind of develop this fundraising mechanism for her year after year. And so we did, and until she retired from racing, a number of collections, and it was kind of this like business model that we were able to then replicate with other athletes that succeeded her. And then we, over the years, have kind of grown that model and scaled it. And now we have 4 athletes. And then in the Olympic year, a couple years ago, we had Paula Moldson, who's a UVM grad and one of the top alpine racers on the U.S. ski team, wearing her lucky strawberries in the Olympics. And finally the US ski team was like, you technically need to have a licensing partnership to be represented on these athletes in that context. So we embarked on a partnership.
Buzzkill.
They gave us props on our guerrilla marketing. It wasn't really intentional. I was not telling Paula what print to wear the morning of the race. But you do have to pay for that coverage. So we've embarked on a new partnership with them, and theirs is definitely the kind of largest, most impactful partnership we've developed. And we do a unique print with them each year. And similarly, like to me, that wouldn't have happened without the journey with the athletes and that program growing. But now we're going to be ready, gearing up for the next Olympic year, and we'll be a little more sanctioned going into that this year.
You got to ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Exactly.
Right?
And it was really like such a fruitful, and they've been such a great partner once we kind of crossed that bridge.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. Claire, will you tell us about your involvement with REI? Because I think it's pretty rad.
Yeah, so I haven't told this this wild story publicly.
Ooh,
all right.
heavy hitting. All right.
I only told some friends. So the first connection with REI actually happened at August 1st. You know, the coffee shop. So that's a magical place. So everyone should go there very often. They didn't pay me to say that. But anyway, so I was there having coffee with a friend. Just at the same time, I was showing him, you know, the products because I was very excited, and he has been in the business for many, many years. So he knows the products so well. So I was just, you know, saying, why this color, why this? Probably because I was very loud. So the lady sat next at the next table started talking to me. And she was like, oh, yeah, your products look really good. Do you know, have you talked with REI? I would say, no, I haven't. This was like two years ago. So turned out to be that lady is one of the board member of REI's board of directors. I know. So she was here because she was visiting her daughter who went to REI, who went to UVM at the moment. So it's just crazy. I was like, seriously, I asked her, do you work in REI in Williston? She's like, no, I'm actually on their board. I was like, oh wow, okay. So that happened.
So smooth, Claire.
Seriously, I was like, at that moment, I didn't even have a business card. So I gave her a sticker. It was a very cute sticker. So that really opened the door, and I think when she connected me with the buyer didn't know anything, you know. So I started I had a meeting online. I just told her my story. That I showed her the colors, the quality, and she just like, yeah, I'm gonna bring you in. So it was just like that. It was just crazy story how we got in. And I was very lucky to got into their accelerator program. It's called Pathhead Ventures. program. That program is a special program supporting colors of founder. Founder of color, in founder of color in the outdoor industry. So out of like 140 some companies, we were one of the 6 selected last year. We were very, very lucky. Yeah, so it was. Thank you, thank you. It was. We were very lucky to be part of it. And also, I was very proud. Like we could we opened up a door for other brands in Vermont. People. I think that program reached out to VOBA or started talking to VOBA and just start tapping into more brands.
Kelly, you
in
here?
the streets.
Oh, Kelly's right there.
Hi, Kelly.
Anyone want to talk about VOBA? Kelly's there. You can talk to Kelly. Thanks,
Yeah,
Kelly.
so it's like in and out, like pulling in more. I hope we could pull more resource into Vermont, and we also I'm very proud to present Vermont brand in front of REI.
So rad. And man, you got to talk about your business all the time because you never know, right?
I know, buying happens everywhere.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. So you two have been in business for a few years. My veteran over here. One thing I want to talk about is just longevity. You have run Skida for a very long time. How do you stay motivated? What keeps it exciting for you? When you wake up in the morning, what gets you going? Because I think that's a really hard part of being a human is staying focused on something and staying excited. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's I wonder that all the time.
We'll come back in 8 years and talk about that.
Where did the time go? Yeah, no, I think what I think of when you ask that question is just how every year has presented its own set of challenges and kind of new projects and new. It's this year is nothing near what it was last year, the year prior, and part of that is all these variables. It's the team, the environment, the economic climate, what products we're working on, the snow year, all of our initiatives. There's never been 2 years that feel redundant, and I'd say that kind of keeps me kind of excited, and it doesn't get boring, and it probably it really suits my attention span and scatteredness. So I do feel like that's kind of the life of an entrepreneur is challenge. What is it? How do we solve it? Great, done. Next challenge. What is it? How do we solve it? And it is I find it, but my biggest challenge is probably zooming out when I'm in the challenge or problem solving mode is zooming out, seeing the big picture and figuring out wait, what's our course here? All right, we're going that way. And taking that 30,000 foot view is kind of every chance I have to do that is really welcomed, and the view is always different up there.
Absolutely. Twists and turns. Yeah, you've been through a lot, man.
Thanks.
Keep at it. Yeah. I'll start my rental program shortly.
Yeah, we might have to do that.
Yeah, great. All right. Enough of me. Nicole, can you grab a mic? We're going to do a little audience Q&A for a few minutes. No press. Louisa has one. Just someone in a shadow over there has one. Sorry, I really can't see. Nicole, go for it. Yeah.
Thanks. Hi, congratulations to you all. Amazing.
It's very green.
Okay. Hello.
There you go.
Okay, again, congratulations to you all. I just have to say, okay, so I was one of your first clients at Burke Mountain Lodge. My kids are all alpine ski racers, and there you were with the duffel bag, you and your mom. And so we have some of your original prints.
That's great.
And my kids are also all bikers. We're all family bikers. We all have Bivo. When
Thank
you did
you.
launch VT, I bought one for every single one. I don't have any grandchildren yet, but when I do, they're all going to be wearing your Hootie Hoo.
Thank you.
But I just wanted to say, how did you guys know we talked about funding? Are you all self-funded, or how did you get the capital to build your businesses?
Great question.
All right, that's a very good question. Thank you for supporting us. So I have been bootstrapped since day one, and then I was very calculated, making all the decisions is very hard. But you got to take a leap, just do that. And we are very fortunate, and through the program I just mentioned, through the REI program, Path Adventure program, they actually gave us funding, also invested in the company. So it's an amazing program for us. That changed a lot. Right now, we have a loan. We have a line of credit with VCLF. If you are looking for just like a very beginning, you just want to take a little bit loan out, just do a project. And that's something you can try, because the interest rate is more reasonable than the banks. So right now we're trying to just fly low, survive through all these fundings and loans.
I had a footwear product development agency before Bivo, and so I ran that for 10 years, and we had some money from that business that we invested into Bivo. Our goal was to get Bivo through the first 18 months of business, and we were able to do that, and then we did a small friends and family round through a convertible note, and we also just secured a line of credit, which is really hard for a small business because you have to be cash positive most of the time to get a line of credit through a bank. Banks are very risk averse. So that has been, Vermont has been great that way. We got one through the Vermont Federal Credit Union. We're also in another small round through a SAFE note, which is a Y Combinator agreement that we're working with. I really did not want to raise money. Like, that was something that I just did not have any interest in. And it really scared us. So we've been super fortunate with the people that we've brought on. So our friends, I say friends and family around, but really it's quite, it's much more, advisors and strategic investors. We've been just through our footwear days. We had a lot of good connections. And they've been so wonderful. Like, they've just been so supportive and really helped from a strategic standpoint. So through all of this, it was like one of the things that I was like regretting or not looking forward to the most. And it ended up being something that's been really great. We're very close to being cash positive. So hopefully we're done pretty soon on all that. But yeah.
That's great. Skida's been self-funded over the years. And I like to joke that I've run Skida like a lemonade stand, where it's like each season we make hats, and then from the sales of the hats we fund our own working capital for the next year. And that's partly why our growth has been kind of slow and steady over the years. I think if we had chosen to lean in and grow a certain way any given year, that might have been more capital intensive. That wouldn't have worked. But because we've been kind of on a steady trajectory and kind of pick a few initiatives to work on, a few areas where we want to invest, that's made that path work out for us.
If any of those answers gave you an anxious stomach ache, you can reach out to VCET, VCET.co. Dave, Nicole, or Jeff will advise you and tell you how to fund your business. And even though we're investors, we're don't take a check unless you need it. So no stress.
Hello, all of you are super cool. I am curious. I feel like every entrepreneur's journey is very different and allows you to interface and network with a lot of really cool people. And so I'm curious about what the best piece of advice you've ever received was at a 30,000-foot view.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big one.
I can take a stab at this one. So my husband is my business partner, and I'm very much a jumper, and he's very much an analyst and likes to think through problems. And I think often in starting businesses, you have to have both, and that's been one of the benefits of working with him. But I think as businesses get more and more serious, that jumping is it's harder and maybe gets overlooked by advisors and I don't know, people on the outside. Sometimes I often am like, God, I just feel like an idiot. But I had somebody tell both of us that how important my role of jumping is, and ever since I was told that, I was given kind of the freedom to be that person and not worry about it, and it has helped the business immensely. So I think just probably it's be whoever you are and don't worry about it. But for me, it was making sure I continue jumping.
That's great. I think the best advice I have is just like, have someone to checkpoint. I think it's very important to surround yourself with some good people who can give you honest but instructive feedback. When I say honest, it's like, they will just kill your ideas sometimes. So you kind of like, it's very frustrating when you hear something, when you're very excited, but someone say, hey, I don't think that will work. But you do want someone to give you something, tell you why. And so you hear all these ideas, you hear people, different voices, then you can make the decision as your own. Then, I feel like, for me as entrepreneur, I don't want to feel regretted, like I didn't do anything. So I want to, like, I take your idea, I take your feedback, but I feel like that's the best way to do, and then you can continue. But you want to have that someone, checkpoint, give you those ideas, and then so you can just see the big picture and then see all the angles.
I think for me, it's such a good question. We're kind of going back to the point or question you asked, Sam. I think the best advice I was given, or the one I can think of right now, came from my dad. And I remember kind of getting into some new uncharted territory, particularly around kind of the business mechanics. And I just remember coming to him with some specific questions, and he was kind of like, look, business isn't rocket science. At the end of the day, it's like you're managing relationships and people, and then the business side of it is like basic math. And of course, there's layers of complexity the more intertwined they get, but that really helped me, I think, like stay in it for as long as I have. And when things get really scary or big, boiling it down to those simple things has been a real game changer for me.
So my 6-year-old wears Hootie Hoo head to toe. We have a couple of Bivo bottles, and Skida we've had for years and years and years. So love all you guys up there. My question is more long-term. What's the long-term goal? What is there an exit strategy? Like, how do you guys think about what's next, and what are you trying to achieve, and where are you looking to go?
I'll start. I think a lot about, lately, to me, success for Skida means that in 10, 20 years, Skida is around and still, honestly, kind of exploring its best and fullest potential, that we're still providing joy in inclement conditions, that we're still providing warmth in winter. Like, to me, that if that's still happening in 20 years, that's a huge win. And with that, there's, the business sustainability and all these other pieces to get there. But when I think about that future, I just want that to be kind of at its best potential. Was that the question? Was there a second part to that? That's it? All right, great. I love it.
Nailed it.
I really love being in the outdoor bike community. I think living a life that I love running my own business and having the flexibility that provides. So I want to honestly keep having fun, and that's like a major goal. But ultimately, I think that the plan right now is to sell at some point. I really love the startup phase, which I sometimes question why I do so much, but it's fun. It's different all the time, and so I think I really thrive in that like fast-paced, changing environment, and I'm not sure I'm cut out for the bigger corporation. But that's the plan, and some days I'm like, nope, this is gonna be a family business, and so I think it really depends on how things go, but that is the plan.
It's interesting to say to hear that you really enjoy the start part. Sometimes I'm just like, what the heck? Why did I start it? So I mean, right? Some moments you just like just like a breakdown. So I think for us, I really enjoy what I'm doing. I think I have my dream job because I am passionate about parenting I'm also passionate about making beautiful products. So it's a really nice combination for me. I was hoping, I can sell the business someday, in the future. But just recently, I've been thinking about that. I don't know about future. It's just recently I had some mentally breakdown, lots of changes, going on. But I feel like it's very important to keep doing the right thing, especially for kids. So I think maybe it is the meaning. It's one of the meaningful goal for me to continue this journey, especially for kids. So yeah.
All right, well, if that's not the note to end on. Oh, I love that. Now you're gonna make me cry. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. I wanna, Nicole, come up, please. Thank you. I want to thank you three so much for being here tonight, for saying yes, for sharing so vulnerably. As we mentioned earlier, this is my last and 30th event, but do not fret. I know that we need this more than ever. We started Female Founders in a Trump era, and we will continue it. All right? Okay? I'm getting stern now. Listen, take care of her. All right? Buy your tickets early. Okay? Yeah, I know who you are. Okay? Be kind. Ask good questions. All right? Thank you so much for coming. I am never been more confident that Female Founders is in amazing hands with Nicole. Come introduce yourself. Say hello to her. She's the best. You're not even going to miss me, I promise. I will be sitting in the back, glass of wine, chilling. Not in January. I will be having a baby in January, but then after that, I will be here. So thank you all for coming. Thank you three for being so amazing and vulnerable. We love you. We love your brands. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Hotel Vermont and RETN. We'll see you soon.